What is going on, everybody? It's the Frost, and we're here for UnScripted number 129 for July the 26th, 2020. We are on our way to August, almost time for SummerSlam coming up soon. We have a lot to go over this week. It was one heck of a week in the world of professional wrestling. It came out a couple weeks ago, that Tessa Blanchard got terminated by Impact Wrestling. She was the World Heavyweight Champion. A lot of people gave Impact Wrestling hate for giving her that championship because it is 99.9% of the time a men's championship. So when Tessa Blanchard got fired, everyone was wondering what's going on. Why would they terminate the World Heavyweight Champion? Then it came out that there was a lot of attitude problems for her. They wanted her to tape some vignettes. She refused. She wouldn't come back and drop the title. Her contract was coming up at the end of the month anyway. So they figured, you know what? Her contract's coming up soon, and we're gonna cut her loose now because it's not worth our grief anymore. So we're gonna do that. Then it comes out that there's a possibility that, and you wonder, we had a fatal four-way last Saturday between Eddie Edwards, it was a fatal five-way actually, Rich Swann, Eric Young, and I can't remember who else was in the match. It was the other two that I can't remember who they were. One was, I just can't think off the top of my head, but they were having a fatal four-way. And the belt they won, but Eddie Edwards ended up winning, looked slightly different than the one that Tessa Blanchard left with. Tessa's version of the Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship was silver-plated. This one was gold. Now, far be it from me, I think the one Eddie Edwards has now was absolutely beautiful. It's better looking than what they actually had years with the original Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship. But where was the original world title? Why is Eddie Edwards winning this gold-plated one and not the original silver-plated one? Well, the simple answer is the world title was still in Tessa Blanchard's possession. Now, there's a rumor going around, and Fightful reported that Impact Wrestling World Champion, or former World Champion, Tessa Blanchard, was holding the championship for ransom. $150,000 to return the title. And somebody was comparing this to what happened with Ric Flair back in 1992 when he left WCW and took the NWA World title with him to WWF. It's two totally different things. This was a woman, if this is true, demanding money for something that does not belong to her. Back in the day, when the NWA was the big powerhouse and everything, for you to win the World Heavyweight Championship, you had to put down, I think it was like $25,000 or more, like $250,000, whatever it was. You had to put down a big, huge sum of money for a deposit for them to give you the championship. And Ric Flair had put that deposit down, and when you lose the championship, you get that deposit back. WCW fired Ric Flair and refused to give him his deposit back, so Ric Flair technically owned the NWA World Heavyweight Championship until they fixed all that. So trying to compare what Ric Flair went through in 92 to what Tessa Blanchard went through in 2020 are people who are really fucking stupid. But of course, as Tessa Blanchard would do, apparently, she's sending it back recently, but she denies claims that she demanded money from the company and sent it back. Sources close to Tessa said that she did not try to hold the Impact for money, and the company only provided her with an address to send her the belt to this week. Tessa, you've been working with Impact Wrestling for what, 2 years? And you didn't have, like, you get a check, don't you? You get a bank statement or a check, and there should be an address to where this came from, right? Somehow, some way, you should have a way of figuring out where an address to send this championship. Or you could have called anybody you work with up and be like, hey, I got the title, I'm going to send it to you because I don't know where to send it there. So, like, I don't know, maybe send it to Eddie Edwards if you're friends with him. Send it to somebody in the company that you know works for the company, is going to take that title into management. Like, hey, Tessa sent me the championship, here you go. So, trying to sit there and be like, oh, no, they just now gave me the address to where I'm supposed to send this, doesn't seem to fly with me at all. It just doesn't. Now, Impact Wrestling officials claim otherwise and say she's only now denying the claim because it leaked out. One source said this is what she does. When she gets caught in a lie, Blanchard people say the title belt is set to be safely returned shortly. So this is one hell of a mess. One hell of a mess. You have the he said, she said going on here. That Tessa's camp says she wasn't holding him up for money. There is Impact Wrestling's camp saying she is holding him up for money. The only way that you can even remotely have this settled is if Impact Wrestling has proof via text, via recorded call or something, any way of her saying, I'll give you the title back if you give me this amount of money. If this is true, and I'm just going to say if because it's not 100% true that this happened, is really, Tessa? You got thrown out of a company because you refused to work with them and what they wanted to do, and then you decide to hold the championship up for Ransom? And again, if this is true, let me sing here. If this is true, you then you expect somebody like WWE or AEW to like pull out the checkbook, pull out the checkbook and write a big amount of money to bring you in. If this is true, this is not the way to get hired by another big company. This actually is going to have, which apparently Tony Khan and them have no desire to bring in Tessa Blanchard, which I wouldn't either with her attitude history. But this is what you're going to do. I'm hoping it's absolutely false that this is what's going on, because if it's true, it really makes Tessa Blanchard look very, very bad. Now, I'm not gonna sit there and say that's true, but it just sitting there is like, oh, they just sent, like, that's one of those red flag moments. Like, oh, I didn't want Ransom. I didn't want $150,000 for this championship belt. They just now so happen to send me the address to where to send it, even though you know most of these people that you worked with, and I'm sure you could have sent the title to any of them. It's just something about what Tessa has to say is not flying with me. So I'll let you update it if anything else comes out. If it comes out to be true, bash her some more. If it comes out to be false, then you have to be shame on Impact Wrestling for trying to smear somebody who wasn't holding it for Ransom. And maybe we'll just have to see what more comes out, because I don't think this is going to be the end of this. Bopker T, Sucker! Slams, hashtag, Naomi deserves better. Last Friday, not this past Friday, but last Friday, Naomi had a match with Lacey Evans. In that match, Naomi gets beat by one of the lamest ways possible. Naomi gets her hair tied into the ropes, gets it untied, and then eats a woman's rights, and that was that. So, fans who are like mega fans of Naomi started a hashtag, give Naomi a chance. Bopker T did not like this. After she took a loss to Lacey Evans on Friday, July 17th episode of SmackDown, Naomi's fans took to Twitter. They got the hashtag Naomi deserves better trending, and attracted some high-profile support inside and out of WWE, even the wrestling business. In addition to Kiki Palmer and Charlotte Flair, it was caught the attention of Hall of Famer Bopker T. During his Extreme Rules after-show edition of his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker revealed that he thinks about things like the Twitter uprising that happened last Saturday and Naomi's overall potential. Naomi deserves a chance. They can go to hell with all these hashtags. I'm tired of hearing about them. Nobody deserve a chance. You have to earn a chance in your spot on the roster. This is not some kind of movement just to pull somebody up just because. I hate to say this because I like Naomi, but as far as the business goes, you get it on your merit. You get it on your merit alone. Bullshit. There is no buddy system. Well, such and such has a buddy, and that's why they're doing it. That might be true, but life is not fair. Sometimes you have to make your own breaks and rise to the occasion when no one else thought you could. It may not happen overnight. No one expected me to become a 6-time world champion, but I'm sure you politicked your way into that. Everybody fucking knows that politics is a huge deal in professional wrestling. Charlotte Flair politicked to be a 12-time women's champion. John Cena politicked himself to become a 16-time world champion. Politics play a huge role in wrestling. Hulk Hogan would have never been as big of a star or have lasted as long as he did in the 80s into the 90s if it wasn't for politics. Where was I? But my persistence of going out there and performing better than all of those suckers in the locker room, and they knew it, and the fans saw something different. That's why I say hashtag Naomi deserves better. I don't think it serves her any purpose, people advocating for her in that way. The way that needs to be put out there isn't her advocating for herself and performing at a high level. When you do that, you cannot be denied. No one will ever say you were given anything. If it happened tomorrow, someone blessed Naomi with the world championship. Trust me, it would not feel like she did it on her own. But yet, it's okay for Charlotte Flair last year going into WrestleMania, beating Asuka in a women's championship match that was given to her that fucking night. But yet, if someone blessed Naomi with a championship opportunity on SmackDown next week, then how would that be any different than what Charlotte went and happened last year? Remember when Becky had a promo on SmackDown and said Charlotte Flair doesn't deserve to be in this championship match, and then she's like, deserving? I'll show you deserving right now. Goes to the ring, out comes Asuka, who was the SmackDown Women's Champion at the time, and they made it a women's championship match with no build, no promotion, out of fucking nowhere, just to put the women's championship on Charlotte, so they would have a legitimate reason for her to be in the triple threat match at WrestleMania. Give me a fucking break, Booker. I never would have wanted the world title if it was given to me that way. Naomi is perhaps more athletic than every female in that locker room, but psychology and working are two different things. If I had my hands on her for 1 month, Naomi would look at this business a total different way. Now, I can understand saying, oh, well, you don't want to hand anybody anything. But, Booker, Naomi doesn't get that many opportunities. We're not saying, give Naomi the women's championship tomorrow. That's what they were saying. They weren't saying, give her the chance tomorrow to become women's champion. But give her more opportunities. The top women on Raw and SmackDown are Bayley, Sasha Banks, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, Asuka, Nia Jax, and Charlotte. That is it. Kairi Sane I wouldn't lump into there because she's leaving. But that's it. Naomi had been healthy for weeks, and we didn't see her for weeks. What did we see her? We saw her, the next time we saw her after this whole pandemic thing started was a stupid karaoke contest. That's the best you could do for Naomi, who has been busting her ass for 10 plus years, hardly getting opportunities. Yes, she's a 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion, but remember when she was the second time she won the SmackDown Women's Championship, and they got her that title belt that actually glowed? It glowed? That was actually a good selling point for them. They actually had those being sold for them. Did it matter to them? No. She lost it to Natalya at SummerSlam. So Booker T needs to just keep his mouth shut because he's not helping anything. So Booker you're taking it the wrong way if you think that we're like, oh, like people are like, oh, give Naomi Naomi deserves better. Yes, in a sense, You don't give somebody anything, but tell that to Charlotte Flair, who gets everything and anything and doesn't even have to work a day in her life if she doesn't want to. Charlotte Flair is given everything. What about Daniel Bryan? Remember Daniel Bryan, who became the Yes Man, the Yes Movement, the leader of the Yes Movement? How many people wanted him to, advocated him to be the heavyweight champion? How about Zack Ryder, who was going out there showing you what he could do, being one of the best people in the company that he could be, only to be stuffed away until their voices in the crowd got so loud they had no choice but to use them. And then what happened? Then what happened after WWE said, you know what, fuck it, we'll give him the championship, the U.S. championship. They gave it to him, and just as quickly as they gave it to him, they took it away with him and had him was dehumanized, emasculated, and turned into they found a way to silence the Zack Ryder people. The women overall, how would you expect WWE's women's division would be right now if hashtag Give Divas a Chance did not trend? That right there started everything for the women's evolution. What was the women's evolution? Right now, I don't even know what you want to call it, because if you're not the top woman I just named, you don't matter to WWE on the main roster. This is just... So Bopker T, just, keep your nonsense to yourself. Naomi, hopefully, will get a better chance, but here's the thing. And we have all this stuff that's going on with Black Lives Matter, which is all a bunch of bullshit and everything. But you cannot tell me that Naomi is overlooked and underutilized for any other reason than the color of her skin. WWE has this thing where they don't want to push people of color more than they do, which I know 13 out of the 15 champions right now are people of color, which is really surprising. Well, 13 out of 4, it's 12 out of 14 now, 15 now, because Keith Lee dropped one of the titles for whatever reason. But Naomi should be better. She should be, honestly. Naomi is one of the she had a hell of a promo this past Friday. Hell of a promo. Go check it out. But she should be somebody who is in the top. She might not be the number one woman anytime, but she should be in the conversation for the women's championship. I'm not saying have her go out on Friday next week, take Nikki Cross's place in that title match, and beat Bayley for the women's championship. But she should be one of the women they focus on. Especially with everything's going on right now, WWE would be smart to build up a strong, athletic woman of color and build her to be your women's champion. Or going and getting a tag team partner and beating Bayley and Sasha Banks for the women's tag team championships. Building her up as somebody who could be a force to be reckoned with in the women's division. But of course, WWE aren't that fucking smart. Naomi deserves better. Ruby Riott deserves better. All the women in the WWE minus Nia Jax, because Nia Jax doesn't deserve anything. Everybody else deserves better. So, let's talk about AEW for a second. AEW beat NXT in the ratings this week. AEW slaughtered NXT in the ratings this week. But something we haven't seen for a while is they had a match that brought in more than 1 million viewers. This is not shocking, and I'm surprised it took the Young Bucks in this pandemic time this long to get a match into 1 million viewers. This week's episode of AEW match between the Young Bucks and the Butcher and the Blade reportedly did huge numbers for the company. It was noted on Twitter by Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that the match which was won by the Young Bucks topped more than 1 million viewers in the quarter. President and CEO Tony Khan responded to Meltzer's tweet and confirmed that the Falls Count Anywhere match drew more than 1 million total viewers for the final 5 minutes of the bout. Khan noted that the show hit 1,018,000 viewers from 8:55 p.m. to 9 p.m. 502,000 of those viewers were the 1849 key demographic. And also, on a related note, AEW Buzz, Florida News reports John Albert of Spectrum Sports 360 noted on Twitter that he's talked to people in AEW, and they are agreeing that the company's momentum was negatively impacted by COVID-19. Of course it was, in a big way. I still firmly believe, if we would not have had this coronavirus bullshit that's going on, and we had crowds, that episode that had Blood and Guts advertised, which was going to be the next week, after that first week where Brody Lee debuted and Broken Matt Hardy debuted, that very next week was going to be Blood and Guts. That show would have hit 1 million viewers for the entire show, and it would have been just snowballing from there, and AEW would have been off to the races, and NXT would be nowhere near. Word within AEW is that if Rochester, New York, and Newark, New York shows goes off as planned back in March, what have happened as planned, the company would be doing much bigger numbers. The Rochester show had been scheduled for March 18th as the go-home show to the big Blood and Guts show, which I so wanted to see. The Blood and Guts edition of TV was set to feature the big match between the Elite and the Inner Circle, which we ended up getting a Stadium Stampede. So, yeah. Also, speaking of that match between the Butcher and the Blade and the Young Bucks, both Young Bucks and the Blade ended up injured in this match. With the Blade, who he did that spot where he's supposed to miss, I don't remember who he was supposed to miss, but he was supposed to go and land on a table. He missed everything. He was banged up after that. Matt and Nick were injured from the Swanton and the elbow drop off of the tunnels on the stage. So, luckily for these guys, this was taped not this past Wednesday, but this was taped last week. So they got a 2-week break between this show, between when this show was taped and next week's show, which is live. So hopefully everyone is going to be up and good. Another injury, of course, happening on AEW was Darby Allin, who, if you saw, Ricky Starks attacked him from behind. And when I mean attacked, he obliterated this dude. He obliterated him. He hit him so hard that he bounced headfirst off of the top rope. And it just looked nasty from there. Also, him getting his ass kicked by those two right after. He did mention on Twitter that he was knocked out for that after that incident. So, hopefully Darby Allin is not going to be out of commission for the match on Sunday. But on Wednesday. So we can have Darby Allin and Jon Moxley versus Taz's guys of Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. Moving on here. This right here. So, anybody remember the Nation of Domination? By any means necessary, the group that started out as Crush, Sabio Vega, Farouk, and a bunch of D'Lo Brown was there as somebody who could get beat up, and a bunch of actors, as well as Clarence Thomas and that rap group. I can't think of who the fuck they are. Then it morphed into Farouk, D'Lo Brown, Kamu Mustafa, and eventually The Rock as well, and then of course Mark Henry. And they were based off of equality, race. It was racially driven. And then WWE decided, it's been 20 years since we had the Nation of Domination. Let's do it again. This time we're going to have Bobby Lashley, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin with Farouk or Ron Simmons as their manager. Ron Simmons was there on Monday Night Raw for a reason. Before they rewrote Monday Night Raw, they were going to start the Nation of Domination on Monday. How tone deaf could they be? Now, if you're going to do the Nation of Domination in 2020, it would not be somebody. You couldn't make it a heel stable. I mean, come on. With everything that's going on, that would have to be a babyface stable. But no crowd. What's the point? Anyway, they dropped this idea. It was recently had the idea of a revamped version of the Nation of Domination on Raw. There were plans to do an angle for the storyline during Monday's Raw, which in WWE Hall of Famer Ron Simmons was brought in. The Nation of Domination angle may have been dropped, but WWE is moving forward with the Hurt Business stable featuring MVP Lashley and 24/7 champion Shelton Benjamin. Now, the problem with the stable that I have so far is that everybody from this stable got their start in the 2000s. Almost 20 years, like 15, 20 years ago. If you want this stable to be something, they need to pick somebody young who can be built up like the Inner Circle has Sammy Guevara. That's what the Inner Circle needs to do, is build him to be a credible guy. So when they eventually do the split, Sammy Guevara looks like a credible guy and can be on his own. They need somebody like that. This is why Simmons was at Raw. They appeared in a brief backstage segment with MVP and Lashley. There has been rumors of Simmons being the mouthpiece for the group, which, why would you need Simmons for a mouthpiece if you have MVP? MVP who can talk just as well as Ron Simmons. Why would you need Ron Simmons for a mouthpiece for a stable with MVP? In an update, the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that Hall of Famer Mark Henry was also brought in for the kickoff of the Nation of Domination idea. Henry did not appear on the show while Simmons did. It is noted that there is no word on if WWE plans to do the Nation of Domination idea with MVP's crew, Henry and Simmons, or if it was dropped. However, there were people within WWE who thought that from a real-life timing situation, redoing the Nation of Domination right now would be incredibly tone deaf. You don't say. There were reportedly a lot of people in the company who did not want the idea, who did want the idea nixed. Are you kidding me? Do we really need, that's something WWE, our ratings are so fucking bad, and we are so in love with the Attitude Era. We want to go back to the Attitude Era without killing our sponsors. Let's bring back the Nation of Domination. One of the most racially charged groups we have ever done. One of the most racially insensitive groups we have ever done. One of my favorite clips that I ever see is that you have Farouk, The Rock, Khamis Mustafa, and I think D'Lo Brown walking to the ring, and they pan over and they see this white boy just putting his arm up, bowing his head as he is for the Nation of Domination. I'm like, that's WWE right there for you. Just WWE so bad. Now, this is funny. This is absolutely fucking hilarious. WWE had Vince McMahon had Paul Heyman released from his backstage duties. He still works with Brock Lesnar, that's all he does. Paul Heyman was trying to convince Vince McMahon that Monday Night Raw needs to take time to push new talent, and then the ratings will rise when you push new guys. Vince McMahon took that and said, well, he let that go for a couple months, for 9 months. And then he's like, you know what? It's not working. It's not long enough. We're done. And, of course, USA Network is not happy about that. But now, all of a sudden, Vince McMahon is apparently focused on making new stars for the company. It was reported this week by Wrestling Observer newsletter that Vince McMahon reportedly commented that since WrestleMania 36 season has passed, and now that they have several top talent out of action due to COVID-19 or other reasons, that this is the time to where the company has to make new stars. You don't fucking say. You don't say. Isn't that what Paul Heyman was trying to do? Isn't that why Paul Heyman invested in Apollo Crews, Andrade Cien Almas, Angel Garza, Austin Theory, Buddy Murphy, the Street Profits, the Viking Raiders, all these talents that you were burying and putting Big Show and MVP and Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, Randy Orton, all these talents who have been here for 10, 15, 20 years over all these talents who have been here for maybe a year or less. Well, regardless of what we are getting from WWE creative these days, it's notable that Vince did make the comments, and it remains to be seen if WWE will succeed in creating legitimate stars for the future. But there have been several mid-card pushes on SmackDown and Raw as of late, and several call-ups in NXT, which shows that they are trying. WWE has a few notable stars who have taken time off due to the pandemic. I have to believe this before I can see it. Before I say anything else. WWE is out of their mind if they think that they're gonna WWE has not built legitimate new star in a while. Daniel Bryan wasn't built by WWE. Roman Reigns is not a legitimate new star. Roman Reigns, they tried multiple times and they have failed. Daniel Bryan was built by the fans. WWE did not want him to be a star. CM Punk was built by the fans. WWE did not want him to be a star. The last legitimate star that WWE actually built that mattered and made a difference was Randy Orton, Batista, and John Cena. That was it. Brock Lesnar too, if you want to say that too. But I would say Brock Lesnar. So the 4 from the OVW were the last ones that actually felt like big stars. It's just so ridiculous that WWE thinks, oh, well, we had Paul Heyman working on Monday Night Raw to build up these new talents that in 18 months could be the future of this brand. Nah, that's going to take too long. We're not going to do that. We'll go back to Ric Flair. We'll go back to Big Show. Randy Orton will feud with the Big Show now. We'll bring in Christian twice. We'll have MVP's joint make a stable of him, Bobby Lashley, and Shelton Benjamin. All guys who had their career started in 2002, 2006, 2007. But yet, you'll have Ricochet, Cedric Alexander. What are they doing? Nothing. They've been toiling at main event for 6 months. Mustafa Ali made his return this past Monday. What are they going to do with him? That jury's still on that, but I don't want to hold my breath. What big stars are they going to do? What are they going to do to make stars? You already had Matt Riddle get his ass kicked, get beat clean 3 weeks into his run on SmackDown. Then get beat the hell out of by Baron Corbin. Then, what do? They have him beat up on Tony Nese. Poor Tony Nese. Tony Nese should be nowhere near the SmackDown roster to be beat up by Matt Riddle. Only for him to have to go into a feud with Baron Corbin. Because Baron Corbin is the way to build a new star. Yeah, sure. Sure, Vince, sure. I don't, but, okay, so here's my idea. Here's my thing. They want to build new stars, huh? Why are they continuing the Randy Orton and Edge feud going into WrestleMania 37 next year? WWE currently has plans on a third match between Randy Orton and Edge. WWE were just under 250 days away from winning WrestleMania 37 in March 28, 2021. But the current plan is for Edge versus Randy Orton and I Quit match to be one of the top matches next year in Los Angeles, according to Wrestling Observer newsletter. WWE has already planned for the Randy Orton Edge trilogy to continue at SummerSlam, but that was before Edge suffered a tricep injury during the greatest wrestling match ever. Well, here's a good idea. Don't reshoot angles just because you want to get the perfect spot. It was noted that that Edge currently has significant creative influence on the Raw brand right now, with Daniel Bryan has the same on SmackDown. It was described as a situation where both are part of the writing teams for their respective shows. Regarding plans for Orton, a match with WWE Champion Drew McIntyre has been rumored for SummerSlam, which I feel we'll see that push on Monday. Ziggler's got a match against Drew McIntyre. Drew's going to win that match, and I have a feeling as that match ends, Randy Orton's going to hit the RKO on Drew McIntyre, setting up for the match at SummerSlam, which, by the way, is in a few weeks. And this past Monday, they did jack shit for building towards SummerSlam. This past Friday, they did jack shit for building towards SummerSlam. They built to next week's Raw and SmackDown and nothing for SummerSlam. We have a month left. A month. Less than a month. SummerSlam is going to be here. And there's not even a seed or anything planted for SummerSlam. Why do you think people don't care about this company? Why do you think people don't care about these pay-per-views? We have a month to go till SummerSlam, and the whole entire script was ripped up, and we don't know what the hell they're going to be doing for the greatest party of the summer. We don't even know where the greatest of the party of the summer is going to be. There's no reports that the match is still scheduled as this past week as the SummerSlam main event. There are also rumors of Orton winning the title and going on to face Edge. Yeah, because that's building new stars. But that seems unlikely for a number of reasons. Edge is expected to be back in action in time for WrestleMania 37 season build. Yeah, because having Randy Orton win the championship, fine. That's fine. If you want to build a new star by having them beat, you want them to have him beat a new star, beat him, somebody they're going to build up after Drew McIntyre. That's fine. Fine. Randy Orton getting beat by letting somebody, like, doing the job for a built-up new star. That is perfect. That is great. That sounds fantastic. But why would I want to see Randy Orton versus Edge for the WWE Championship? I don't want to see Edge, period. After the Royal Rumble, I was like, okay, he had his 15 minutes of fame. I don't want to see it anymore. So why the hell would I want to see it now? Just no. Edge can, like I said, Edge can go away, and I wouldn't care. I really wouldn't care. Edge had his moment. I don't want to see any more of Edge. Now, this was fucking fantastic on Thursday. This was great wrestling. Great wrestling for you. This is how you work the masses. This is funny. During an interview on the Pat McAfee show, Adam Cole got into a heated argument with McAfee, leading to Cole storming off the show and repeatedly breaking a microphone and a headset. So, if you didn't see it on Thursday, Adam Cole was on the Pat McAfee show. And Adam Cole was, well, not Adam Cole, but Pat McAfee was being a total dick to him. Absolutely total dick. And, like, Adam Cole, Pat McAfee just went a little too far. And we're gonna play this because I cannot do this justice. This is Adam Cole. This is Pat McAfee leading up to Adam Cole storming. Like this is just, you gotta see this or listen to this because this is fucking epic.
Covers, Adam. The Undisputed Era is the main reason why you've succeeded. But by the way, smart. That's good business. Hey, that's business, baby. That's very smart business. Oh, and especially for you, because, you know, you're kind of small.
Oh, we're going to go with the size thing now.
Fuck you, Pat. Seriously, I'm sick of your shit. I come the whole way here, take time away from my family to come to do your stupid fucking show. And you're going to continue to disrespect me. Don't touch me.
Whoa!
Fuck you, Pat. Fuck you!
No, fuck you. Get out of here.
Shit.
That was fantastic. I'm sorry. Of course, they were going back and forth, and Adam Cole's like, he was the longest reigning NXT champion, did it all by himself. McAfee's like, no, that's not true. We watched the takeovers. Undisputed Era helped you in most, if not all, your matches. And then he called him short, and that's where he went off. And the response online is nothing but fucking gold. There were people who actually sit there and tell people, wrestling isn't real, wrestling is fake, and they're falling for this. Now, if Adam Cole and Pat McAfee never had any interaction whatsoever, I'd be like, okay, yeah, this might seem a little real. But watch NXT takeovers. Look at the pre-shows for NXT takeovers where Pat McAfee is on them and they talk to Adam Cole. Every time Pat McAfee and Adam Cole have interaction, it always leads to Adam Cole yelling at him or saying something to him, going off on him after Pat McAfee says something so fucking stupid. So, this is just fucking great. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Pat McAfee is, it is funny. McAfee responded by continuing his point about Adam Cole not being comparable to Shawn Michaels. He also inferred that Cole has used the Undisputed Era to grow his brand. So yeah, it's just so funny that this all went down like this. Now, Pat McAfee did start tweets can be seen that he also responded afterwards. Hindsight is always 20/20, but I always forget this DM. I thought the convo between us could have been good content for the show, but instead it ended in the most insane way imaginable. He broke a mic, a headset, pushed his producer, and stormed out of the office. I have sat there for 20 for 20. To close the show, McAfee talked about the incident and how upset he was about the entire situation. He mentioned how he wasn't sure if Cole was going to be waiting for him outside the main studio. And as far as I've heard, I don't think Adam Cole has said anything. Like, on Twitter, he's, like, not even mentioned it. Which tells me it's not legit. If this was legit, Adam Cole would have had to go on Twitter and be like, I'm sorry to Pat McAfee and his cohorts. I wasn't right for me to do that. It's all a fucking work. Adam Cole was like, if you listen to Adam Cole on Up Up Down Down, you listen to Adam Cole when they do the left right stuff, and how cool, calm, and collected this guy is, and how good of a guy he is. This was just him playing Adam Cole. This wasn't Austin. This was Adam Cole being Adam Cole. McAfee and Adam Cole have had this big rivalry thing going on. McAfee doesn't like Cole. Cole doesn't like McAfee. This is just a continuation of this. I thought it was hilarious, and I don't know what they're doing it for. I don't know why they thought it would, like, it's them working people. Is it going to be something that has to do with Adam Cole going up to the main roster? Maybe this was just a way to keep Adam Cole in everyone's minds until he makes his debut on the main roster after SummerSlam, because he has nothing left to do in NXT. He's not going to be on NXT anytime soon. Probably not. So, having him go on the Pat McAfee show, McAfee get him riled up, him bitch McAfee out, and everything, was a way to keep him on the show, or keep him in people's minds. And it was great. Absolutely great. If you don't like what Adam Cole did, then I don't know what to tell you. I thought it was fantastic. Now, moving on here, Eric Young, recently released from WWE, was in NXT for about a year and a half, was the leader of Sanity, went to SmackDown. They did nothing with Sanity. They even took Nikki Cross away from Sanity for whatever fucking reason, even though she was an integral part to that faction. And then he became nothing. He got beat up by Seth Rollins one time on the road to I think it was his match with Baron Corbin when they made Lacey Evans the special referee. So, Eric Young has been busy this past week after having sat on the sidelines for the time in WWE after debuting amongst a slew of other talents at Slammiversary this past weekend. He stopped by Busted Open for his first interview since leaving WWE. He spoke with Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer about what his time in NXT and WWE was like and where it all went wrong. He said, and I quote, "It was kind of time to move on," Eric said regarding him leaving what was TNA at the time. "The structure of the current company, I felt like I had kind of done everything I was going to be allowed to do there. The WWE is a place I've wanted to work with my whole career. That's what I grew up watching. That was great." Being goal-oriented is the theme for Eric going through this interview. Going further back, he looked back at those goals starting back in his early days in TNA. He likened those times to being like ECW in a lot of ways. He did say that Impact is in a better spot than ever now. But his goals aren't always so lofty in the early days. He said, and I quote, "When I started wrestling, my goal was to sign a contract and say I do this for a living. In signing my first team contract with TNA, I could officially say I was a pro wrestler. I played wrestling. I played wrestler on the weekends, but in 2004, I signed my first contract, and then I could say that this was what I do for a living. That was the first and only goal, and my other goal was to make it to the WWE. That was a huge reason for me wanting to go there." Reminiscing about his career he amassed in WWE, Eric spoke fondly of NXT and refers to Triple H as a key figure in that. Sanity was clearly a fond memory, and he played a role in helping that grow into what it was. "The NXT part went great. I was treated well. Hunter and me worked very closely on the development of Sanity in the group. I really felt like I had say in what went on. Obviously not final say, but was listened to. At the time, Sanity was one of the top acts in the whole company. I could be put anywhere on the card and utilized in a good way," end quote. Things would quickly change with the time on the main roster. Young clearly got more frustrated after the move is happy for days spent there being behind him. Then we transitioned to the main roster, and you and everyone knows how that went. It didn't go well. Sometimes you fall out of favor and it's nothing you did or didn't do. I never changed who I was. I'm not going to do that. That's not who I am. I am not a political person, never have been. The truth is, a bunch of guys that have left there have talked about this, and we don't need to go on and on about it, but the system is broken. Yes, it is. It is hard to get a word in. Even when you're doing nothing, it feels like you're fixing people's mistakes all day. There was no creativity. They want everyone to do the same, then be the same, and bump the same, and sell the same. And there is there's millions of rules. Those change daily. It's really hard to understand what's going on, why it's going on. The system is flawed, and I would say that to anyone there, I would say it to Vince McMahon himself. He explains that he wasn't willing to wait an hour to speak to Vince McMahon, noting that he was a 40-year-old man and not a child waiting for an adult's attention for a few minutes. He said that he didn't take it personally and admitted that Vince was always respectful with him when they spoke. Eric noted that the two had long conversations, but ultimately he almost fell out of love with wrestling due to his time on the main roster. I've heard that from a lot of people who leave there. They go there, they're on the main roster, and after everything that goes on, they fall out of love with wrestling. They don't want to wrestle anymore. That happened with CM Punk. He fell out of love with wrestling because of all the bullshit he had to deal with. So, yeah. He said, wrestling is my first love. There was a point in my life when nothing mattered except for pro wrestling. I lived it, slept it, breathed it, bled it, tears, all of it was about wrestling. So, yeah, I mean, I loved it. And I can say, like, I didn't watch any wrestling when I was on the main roster, Young said. I would walk on Raw and not even watch that show. It's hard when something like that is crushed. It is a place that everything amazing should be happening every second of every day, and it's not. It's a disaster. It's how it's organized. It's hard to love wrestling in that kind of environment. Eric said that all the flaws are created by one person, however, that isn't going to change, however. He said that he's back to loving wrestling again. He also added on a similar positive note that this soul hasn't felt this good in a long time, and seems to be excited for what in store for him with Impact Wrestling. This is nothing new. We all know this. We knew from the fact that when Sandy was brought up, they had a good debut. They did, I will say that. They had a good debut, and then they disappeared. And we didn't see them for weeks on weeks on weeks. They disappeared. Where did they go to? Nobody knew. And then they would come back for a match. And then they were gone. They were disbanded. Killian Dane went to NXT. Alexander Wolf went to NXT UK. Eric Young was lost in the shuffle on Monday Night Raw. And the only time I think he showed up on Monday Night Raw was to either be killed by a talent or killed by Seth Rollins in the back. And that was it. That is Eric Young. That was Eric Young's life in WWE on the main roster. And I can honestly see why you would fall in and out of love with wrestling. Why would you love pro wrestling in that kind of environment? I can totally understand where Eric Young is coming from. But that is WWE to a T. That's what they do. That is what they do. They don't care. You are a cog in the company machine, and that is all they want you to be. Now, not Sasha. Kairi Sane. Her last match was this past Monday, allegedly. Her last show is probably going to be this coming Monday, when Shayna Baszler is probably going to kill her. And with Shayna Baszler being brought back, that makes sense. Build up a match, hopefully for SummerSlam, between Shayna Baszler and Asuka. So, let's see here. Kairi Sane beat Women's Champion Bayley via pinfall on, as noted, Raw WWE taped this week and next week's Raw Monday, which will also feature Sane's last appearance on the company. Sane is headed back to Japan to be with her husband. On the Race of Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was reported, on radio, it was reported that the original plan for Sane as of Monday was to be injured by what looked to be Shayna Baszler. Baszler was brought back to TV as a backup to injure Sane as Natalya was originally scripted to be the attacker. Natalya has been on WWE TV for weeks. Dave Meltzer reported that as far as he knows, she didn't test positive for COVID. Natalya's husband, TJ Wilson, or Tyson Kidd, was really sick a few weeks back and tested negative for COVID, but WWE decided to keep them both away. Because of the changes, Shayna Baszler appears to be taking the role of the attacker. So, let me get this straight. You have Shayna Baszler you are doing nothing with. And Shayna Baszler needs time to shine. Needs time to be seen. And you're going to take that and give it to... At one point, it was going to be Asuka versus Baszler at SummerSlam, but what happened on next Monday's show will likely give the idea of where the story will go. Asuka, of course, is scheduled to take Sasha Banks on for the Raw Women's title on Monday Night Raw. So, let me get this straight. You're supposed to expect me to believe that Shayna Baszler is not supposed to be the one responsible for Kairi Sane getting injured, getting taken out, removed. You were going to build to Asuka versus Natalya. Who in their right fucking mind wants to see Asuka versus Natalya? Haven't we seen that in a one-on-one setting already? Natalya, the woman who was getting her ass kicked by Shayna Baszler 2 months ago, was supposed to be the next challenger for Asuka? Are you out of your fucking mind? This is WWE to a T. They need to be building up new stars. So what are we going to do? Let's use Shayna Baszler. Let's not use Shayna Baszler, who could be the next big star for Monday Night Raw. No. Let's use Natalya. Because Natalya sounds like a good fucking idea. What kind of idiots are running this company? Oh, that's right. Vince McMahon is running this fucking company. And Vince McMahon is got to be the dumbest idiot in the fucking world when it comes to professional wrestling. Holy hell. Holy hell, what a terrible, terrible time. So, apparently Angel Garza got married, so congratulations to him. So, also another thing, of course, Cody Rhodes is having this TNT Championship Open Challenge. Every week's an Open Challenge. Who's going to beat him for the TNT Championship? I don't have a clue. But people have been asking for weeks when it's who's going to challenge him next. A lot of people have been asking for Warhorse. I still have not seen a match for Warhorse. Warhorse. I can't say his name right. God damn it. Well, this past Thursday, AEW decided to spoil who was going to be facing Cody on TNT this coming Wednesday. It will in fact be Warhorse who is going to be getting that opportunity. So, it should be interesting to see what happens. I still want them to sign Eddie Kingston. That dude got a hell of a reaction and was a big proponent to why they did so well this past weekend. But AEW is just on the right path. And here's something about NXT that's going wrong right now. NXT, for years, from 2014 to 2020 at least, maybe before that, before the WWE Network, unless you could find the episodes online, which I had to find them through Dailymotion every once in a while, you couldn't really watch NXT. But from the time that they went to the network after NXT arrival, up until they went to the USA Network, they had some of the best built stories. From Johnny Gargano, from Aleister Black being, knocked out, taken out in the back. Who took out Aleister Black? To the whole Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa saga with that. There has just been so many good stories in NXT. Keith Lee's build, Adam Cole being in the Undisputed Era, Drew McIntyre returning, the prodigal son, and Drew McIntyre making his return to become the chosen one that he was meant to be all those years ago, so on and so forth. They have stopped doing that. Now, nobody can even tell me any otherwise that Keith Lee winning the NXT Championship while being North American Champion was not something that they had planned 6 months ago. No. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, well, we're going to have Keith Lee win both championships on this specific date, at this specific time, and it's not going to be a takeover. Don't give me that bullshit. If AEW would not have come out with Fyter Fest and they just would have had a normal episode event of AEW back-in-back weeks, we would not have seen Sasha Banks versus Io Shirai one week, Keith Lee versus Adam Cole the next week. We would not have had a guy in the crowd at the Performance Center take a picture of Keith Lee winning and putting it on Instagram. We wouldn't have had some other clown in that same audience being like, oh, they taped 2 endings, you gotta see which ending they go with. I'm like, are you kidding me? Did you not see how much confetti was done in that match? Did you not see how much they popped up a bunch of confetti and like the entire Performance Center was like Full Sail University was a blooming mess? Do you mean to tell me that you think they were going to have Adam Cole win, do all that, and then take 20 to 30 minutes to clean all that shit up, and then do another finish? Give me a fucking break. There was one and only one true ending to that match, and it was Keith Lee, your new NXT champion. But in my opinion, Tommaso Ciampa should not have been the guy getting the championship match at Portland. That should have been Keith Lee. Keith Lee was harder than ever coming off of Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble. He should have been the one going for the NXT championship. He should have been the one beating Adam Cole at Portland. WWE having Adam Cole becoming the longest reigning NXT champion of all time, that wasn't planned whatsoever. It's not like one of those things when Adam Cole won the championship, they were like, you know what, Adam? We're going to give you the title here, and you're going to hold it for over a year. No, that wasn't planned. I think they were going to have him lose it at NXT TakeOver Tampa, and then Tampa didn't happen. So, they need to figure things out. Now, I got one more, it looks like, for you guys, but this one is really sad. It really sucks that this come to this. Starting next Monday on AEW, the professional wrestling world will see the debut of the real Matthew Hardy, according to the man himself. Matt Hardy has portrayed a number of gimmicks over the last 2 decades, including his broken persona, Matt Hardy version 1, Big Money Matt, and Never Say Die Matt, among many others. However, Hardy has admittedly never been his real self on camera, a side that he plans to show fans in the coming days. So, why is he dropping all of his gimmicks? Hardy released a video on YouTube channel to explain it. It is a frustrating time in America. There is so much division, chaos, racial injustice, social injustice, which is total absolute bullshit. If you believe all of that, then you're an idiot. And we are in the midst of a killer pandemic that has killed over 140,000 Americans. Numbers are inflated, and it's not even 1% of the American population. To make matters worse, both political parties, Republican and Democrat, are trying to weaponize the chaos against one another for their own gain. Happens every year, Matt. You are not telling us something that hasn't happened over the last 6 or 7 decades. Hardy said that the video released, maybe it's time for me to do my part. Try and heal some of this division. To be a voice of reason. This is why I have decided to be real on AEW programming. To be something I have never been on TV before. It is time for me to be Matthew Hardy. In the same video, Hardy also explained why he moved away from his popular broken gimmick within a month of his AEW debut. When I debuted on as Broken Matt Hardy on AEW, every Wednesday was supposed to be in front of sold-out arenas. I thought thousands of people would be screaming, "Delete! Delete!" at the top of their lungs. Unfortunately, that's just never happened. And Broken Matt Hardy debuted in the first ever AEW Empty Arena event, and has yet to perform in front of fans. He decided to change course and perform a highlight reel of his past characters, moments, and personas. However, the suspension of Sammy Guevara, who Hardy was supposed to feud with, only had to have added to the Broken One's frustration. It's kind of ironic that he posted this video, and then Sammy Guevara made his return. So Matt, you could go back to doing the Sammy feud can continue coming this Wednesday. One of the coolest things about AEW is its passionate fan base. Not being able to interact with the fans and then Sammy Guevara getting suspended only led to more frustration. Hardy has not wrestled a match on AEW since his victory over Santana on June 24th. In a recent episode, he has served as an on-air mentor to Private Party and has accompanied them to ringside. So Matt Hardy wants to take away all the gimmicks that he has had. He wants to be Matthew Hardy. Not Matt Hardy. He wants to be Matthew. I think his middle name's more Hardy. This sucks that he wants to go down this route. Why do you need to be political? Why do you need to bring politics to the forefront of wrestling? Yes, politics play a part in wrestling backstage all the time. But it does not need to be brought forward for us as wrestling fans to see. Matt Hardy wants to do this, fine. It's what Matt Hardy wants to do. I'm not going to tell him he can't do it, but it's like, come on, Matt. You can do better than this. You doing your multi-gimmick thing was actually awesome. It was great to see on the show. But if he wants to get rid of it, he wants to get rid of it. He has gotten rid of the red streak in his hair. He posted a current picture of him, and he's back to just all black hair. Everything's done. He's just Matthew Hardy. We'll see where this goes. Maybe this will lead to something where he is actually deranged. He's like losing his mind, and maybe he goes back to being broken. Who knows? This will be something we'll have to wait and see when it comes to Matt Hardy. It's a sad day to see right now that Matt Hardy decides that now, after everything that's happened in the past, over the last 20 years of his career, now he wants to try and be a voice for reason. I don't get it. But I'm going to get out of here. Hit that subscribe button. Comment down below. Like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The France Club. Find me on twitch.tv/The France Club. Find me on Instagram at The France Club. And I will see you guys Monday or tomorrow for Monday Night Raw, where it will probably be Kairi Sane's last night. Till then, my name is The France, and I'll see you guys later.